Good morning and welcome to Broker Briefing, Australia's premier digital platform for brokers and investors, live streaming video presentations from ASX listed companies. I'm Jane Morgan and thank you for joining me today for our April Mining and Resources Investor Webinar. Today we'll be joined by 4 companies, Pepinnini Minerals, Culpeo Minerals, Ausgold and Tulla Resources. So up first, we are joined by Pepinnini Minerals with the ticker code PNN, a diversified exploration company. To tell us more, today I am joined by Pepinnini Minerals Executive Director, Meena Habib. Good morning, Meena.
Good morning, Jane. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let me just bring up your presentation. Over to you.
Excellent. So,
oops, Meena, are you there?
As mentioned, so we're exploring and developing. Yeah, got you there.
Yep, sorry. Yep, we'll kick off again. Yep. There you go.
Yeah, no worries. So I was just saying we're a new board, a new team, really diverse skill set and re-energized and ready to take this company to the next step. We're in a fortunate position to be working across a portfolio with 4 different projects. And I guess our key message to shareholders is that we will advance exploration across all our projects. And that's our commitment. We're here to unlock value, and yeah, it's an exciting time. So I'll just go to the next slide, please, Jane. Yep, next, please. So just a quick overview on the corporate structure. 61 million shares on issue, roughly at the 38 mil market cap, with 4.8 million in the bank. So nice capital structure. Once again, a strong board with a clear strategy and vision moving forward. So next slide, please, Jane. Yeah, so that's, as I mentioned, there's 4 projects. I do want to touch on them all briefly today. I want to spend a bit more time on the Lithium Brine project with a lot being happening there. Yep, next slide, please, Jane. Yep, so that's the Salta Lithium Brine project. So we know, how lithium has been performing. We're in a good position in terms of where we're situated. We've got over 14,000 hectares and we're located in the world-renowned lithium triangle, which we know holds 65% of the world's lithium. So I want to bring your attention to the graph. And when you look at where we're situated, so we've got the Incawazi Salar, and our next door neighbors there are Ganfeng, so a Chinese well-known lithium producer. And when you move over to the Rincon project, we know that Rio purchased Rincon Mining recently for over $820 million. Our ASX listed peers, Argosy, are there also, and they've done very well. So we're able to see what these big companies have been able to produce. So as a team, it's in terms of putting a strategy together, it's very clear. We do have an existing JORC, so we're not an early phase company. Plenty of work has been done. So a quarter of a million lithium carbonate equivalent has been proved, and grades up to 313 milligrams per litre. We've just announced today that we've signed an MOU with Sunreason, so a global DLE lithium technology company. They've got 8 commercial operating plants. So it's in terms of our prospects, what that grade of 313 means now, we're going to run it through their systems. So I'll be up in Argentina shortly, collecting the samples and making sure that we give our chance the best chance. We've got, this technology is proven. So we're, in terms of our strategy, a big step forward for Peppernini, and really exciting. Next slide, please. So this we we perceive this as a game change, Rincon. And when you look at them separately, Rincon is high in sulfate and Inkwasi high in calcium. So what the company has done, when they brine blend, you find that the impurities of the one counterbalances impurities of other and precipitates out, giving you a high quality lithium product. And we announced that in the recent announcement, we achieved a 5.3 lithium concentrate, which is extremely important. When we start talking to offtake partners, these are the conversations that we're going to be having. The first thing they're going to ask is, what's your grade? So now we're very comfortable in that position, and we're going to continue to explore that. So next slide, please, Jane. So after 8 weeks, the brine blending achieved that 8,500 milligrams per kilogram. So when you look at how that compared to the salars separately, that's 14 times that of Inkwasi and 7 times that of Rincon. So when we're saying game changer, it talks to those numbers. We look at comparisons on the ASX, Alchem, ASX code AKE. Their project concentrate is 7,000 milligrams per kilogram. So we're right up there. So now we've got to prove it on a larger scale. We've got to look at how we're going to get this product obviously to market. We're going to look at assess different ways, including the DLE. Are we going to combine them? These are all strategies that we're working with behind the scenes. But we've got a high lithium concentrate, low lithium sulfate contaminate, and that low contamination leads to high recovery, but it also leads to cost savings. So when we start talking about bringing this product into that production phase, a big area in terms of cost is the cost of reagents, because Mother Nature has done its thing and they've been able to precipitate out. You've got less magnesium and all these contaminants, which effectively you're going to pay for to remove. So this is it's a really good position to be with, to have as a company in terms of our lithium project. We're working on an ESG focus. That's going to be a big part of our business, and we'll continue to talk to the market about what that looks like. We're also talking to the government in terms of how that will look and what that means for them, for Argentina, mining in Argentina. And as an Australian company, it's extremely important to lift our profile. There's a lot happening. People are starting to take note of Peppernini and what we're doing there. So we're looking forward to continue to communicate to the market on our plans moving forward. Next slide, please, Jane. So this just outlines the project. It's fairly straightforward, but when you evaporate them and you get together, we're getting that high concentrate. And as I mentioned, at that high grade, so we'll continue there. It's pretty self-explanatory. Yep, next slide, please. So next steps for us, we'll continue to work with our scientists at Infinitum who did the blind blending program for us. We'll start looking at the numbers, the cost versus benefit. We're planning to drill in Inkwasi and put a JORC resource on that in the next, we'll hopefully start drilling in the next month. We're just waiting on an environmental permit there, but moving forward, and the vision is a scoping study and start looking at, we're in a good position now and we want to grow. We want to grow in Argentina. So what that looks like, we're continuing to work with, and we'll hopefully advance that area as well. So mergers and acquisition, a big part of us, a big part of our focus moving forward. Next slide. So the Kaolin Air Peninsula project, so the first phase of drilling will hopefully commence imminently, so any day now. Yep, next slide, please. Just a quick overview. I think the markets really has a good understanding of Kaolin, 1,413 square kilometers. So it's a decent size tenement. We're adjacent to Andromeda Minerals, and we've got some historical workings. And our goal here is to fast track that JORC resource and start looking at different ways of working. So next slide, please, Jane. So yeah, we've got 130 air holes planned at the Air Peninsula, And once again, we're hoping to get on the ground any day now. And that historical working is going to put us in a good position in terms of our drilling program. There's been a lot of planning in place, and now we're starting to put a strategy together in terms of how we're going to differentiate ourselves from our peers. Next slide, please, Jane. So kaolin has a lot of uses, and we've seen Andromeda and the likes take different, they've got their strategy and what's worked for them. So we're fortunate enough to see that, but also look for a niche area that hasn't been tapped into, and explore that further. So let's stay tuned. We're gonna turn that dirt, and we're gonna find out exactly and how much kaolin we have, and hopefully to work towards that JORC resource. Next slide, please, Jane. So the Santa Ynez Copper Project, this has been on our books for a number of years, and this is a clear message to the market and to the Argentinian government that we're here to do business. We're hoping to start drilling any day now. And next slide, please, Jane. Once again, it consists of 4 mining leases, 61.4 square kilometers, and we're next door to BHP's world-class Escondida gold copper mine. So they're producing. That's where we've done the sampling, we've done the work, and it's time to turn that dirt, find out what's in the ground, and once we get those results, communicate it to market. What does that mean for shareholders? What does that mean for us as a team moving forward with this project? So an important part of our business, and we're glad to finally be on the ground and hopefully drilling within the next few days. Next slide, please, Jane. And there's the work's been done in terms of samples. Samples are great, but we need to turn that dirt. We need to find out what's in there, and align that with the strategy that we have in place. So next slide, please. So Musgrave Nickel Copper Project, this is Australia's most underexplored region. And what that tells us as a board, and what that should tell the shareholders, is that this is a huge opportunity. Next slide, please. So in terms of our coverage there, over 14,000 square kilometers. We've got a farm in J with Rio Tinto. There has been work that's done. They've identified the drilling holes, the targets, the anomalies are looking brilliant. So we're hoping now to work with the local landowners and build that relationship, and also add value to them. It's a partnership. So what we're trying to tell the government in South Australia is that we want to work with everyone, and really push this project forward. Once again, it's a huge opportunity for the company, and I think I don't hear many shareholders talking about it. But we want to bring this to light, and we're once again putting a plan and strategy together in terms of how we fast track our access and work with the locals to make it happen. Next slide, please, Pam. Jane, sorry. So the Pink Slipper JV with Rio Tinto, as I mentioned before, we've got the electromagnetic work done. We know there's brilliant targets. We have a camp on site. The Musgrave, so we've got our own drill rig, we've got our camp, we've got our ute, so we're ready to go. The team is there, our exploration manager, we're all over it in terms of the back end work, assessing the numbers, priority targets. It's all in place. It's now about building relationships, and as a junior exploration, relationships are crucial. So that's front of mind for us, governments, peoples, locals, shareholders. It's a big part of our business, and we want to make that very clear to shareholders that if there's any issues, pick up the phone, talk to me. We're going to be very open in our communication, as we really hope to advance Peppernini across all projects, as I mentioned earlier on. So that's our commitment, and I think that sums us up. A lot of news flow happening. I've mentioned that we're drilling on a number of projects in the in the coming days or weeks. So stay tuned. This DLE is going to be a big part of our business now in terms of our strategy and how we move forward. We've got some excellent brine blending that we're going to now progress. So stay tuned and stay in touch. Thank you, Jane.
Mina, thank you for the great presentation. We have gone very much over time, but I might just run into one question now. So can you please elaborate on the importance of the MOU announced today?
Yeah, of course. The MOU talks to our strategy and our goals. So we've seen the likes of Lake Resources and what they've been able to do with their technology. We've learned a lot. So we're in a good position that we've seen these companies that are far more advanced than us, and us now we've got a JORC resource. So how do we take that to the next step? So is it going to be with brine blending? Now we're going to test DLE and see what the numbers come back with. So DLE increases efficiency of extracting as much lithium as possible. So that's crucial for us. So we're looking at the latest technologies, and that's going to play a big role in our next steps. So we'll stay tuned.
Well, thank you, Mina. And for the attendees who weren't able to get their questions answered, I would encourage you to reach out to Mina and the company directly via the contact details on the bottom of their ASX releases. But thanks for your time. So up next, we have a presentation from Culpeo Minerals with the ticker code CPO. To tell us more about their Chilean copper projects, I will now hand you over to Managing Director, Max Chilsley. Good morning, Max.
Thank you very much, Jane. Great to be here and great to be able to give everyone an update of where we are in Chile at the moment.
Wonderful. I'll bring up your presentation.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Jane. Culpeo Minerals, as you mentioned, ASX CPO. This will, be an update on our past presentation. That's a couple of months old now. Obviously, we've got a couple of new projects to talk about. So if we can go to the next slide. Yeah, just your standard disclaimer there, but on straight into it, onto the investment highlights. Obviously, Culpeo, very straightforward story. We're a Chilean copper explorer. We're targeting high-grade outcropping copper mineralisation in the coastal belt of Chile. We definitely got a strategic focus on projects that are near infrastructure, where we like the low altitude setting of the coastal belt, nothing too onerous from an exploration point of view, and obviously in time it's quite an easy place to build mines once we get to that stage. Obviously Chile is the world's #1 copper producer, so a lot of opportunities in Chile for small to medium size copper exploration companies. So we've got 3 projects to talk about in today's presentation. Obviously, we want to focus initially on Lana Carina, which is our recent acquisition. I want to give an overview of Las Butacas, which is quite an exciting, very large project. And obviously, we've got a third project, Quelon, which we're starting to get some results back from some of our geophysics work. So we'll touch on Quelon at the end of the presentation. Obviously, all of these projects, as I mentioned, have outcropping copper mineralisation. This is not moose pasture. This is areas that we know there's copper mineralisation. Both Lana Carina and Las Butacas have had some historic drilling, and obviously we're in the process of adding to that data with our new drilling programs. All of the projects have walk-up targets defined from either previous drilling, geochemistry, geophysics results. So very, very encouraging projects, and obviously Lana Carina is quite advanced, having quite a bit of historic drilling. As I mentioned, we are drilling now at Lana Carina. We announced a couple of weeks ago that that particular acquisition. We immediately got the drill rig on the ground. We've obviously alerted the shareholders to the fact that the first hole has hit some significant visual sulfide mineralisation, which is pretty exciting for us, and we'll run through that shortly. Obviously, Culpeo has a very experienced management and board, and with significant Chilean experience, which is puts us in a pretty good position. We can go to the next slide. Just a quick overview of the leadership team there. Obviously myself, Jack McNamara, Zephron Reeves, Paul Smythe, all experienced mining people, mixture of geologists and engineers. We've got Sergio Uribe, who's our country manager, again a very experienced Chilean national who has a very good eye for project acquisition and getting projects across the table that maybe other people don't get a chance to see. We've got some very experienced company secretaries in Perth as well, Shannon and Sarah. So very happy with the team, very energetic team, and I think I think we're in a very good position to advance these projects pretty quickly. Just a quick note on the capital structure there, currently trading at 25 cents, market cap of 13.5 million, still quite a reasonable treasury there with approximately 4 million in the treasury. So we're set up pretty well to complete these exploration programs that we have announced to the market. We have a very good backing there with PAC partners who assisted us with the IPO. So I think from a corporate point of view, looking very good. Can we go to the next slide? So just on to the three projects. I mentioned Lana Carina, Las Batatas, Quelon. All of those projects are copper focused. Obviously, Lana Carina, we're expecting a bit of molybdenum in the assays. Las Batatas is copper and gold, and Quelon is also copper and gold. They're, as I mentioned, all in the coastal belt, all very close to infrastructure, and particularly Lana Carina and Las Batatas. You can see there some of the historic work. I suppose it's worth noting too that Las Batatas is very close to the large Candelaria mine, which is over 1 billion tonnes. So good place to be. Next slide. So just a bit of a visual there. I mean, this stuff certainly gets myself excited, and I think people can get a good feel for the styles of copper mineralisation we have encountered in the drilling programs. Obviously, Lana Carina, we're seeing substantial chalcopyrite in the core. And over some pretty significant widths. At Las Batatas, we saw a mixture of chalcopyrite in the deeper parts of the drilling, and we also saw quite a bit of high-grade oxide mineralisation closer to the surface. So a couple of visuals there to sort of show people that, number one, we are drilling, and number two, we are seeing some good results from that drilling. Can we go to the next slide, please? So just, I want to start with Lana Carina. That's where we're drilling at the moment. Obviously, I'm here in Chile also at the moment, overseeing this initial part of the program. We have a right to acquire 80% of Lana Carina, and that was detailed in the announcement a couple of weeks ago. There has been a bit of historic production at Lana Carina, mainly from underground, based on the old mine records, sort of 1 million tonne at around about the 2% copper grade coming out of the near surface underground mining that was carried out. The project, from a geological point of view, is a porphyry copper system, but interestingly, it's associated with some high-grade, breccia pipes that host quite a bit of sulfide mineralisation. So it's pretty exciting that we've got two different rock types there, particularly the breccias, because they tend to be higher grade. And then associated with those breccias is the porphyry mineralisation, which is, for a porphyry system, Lana Carina is certainly higher grade than usual. just to sort of home in on some of those grades, you can see some of the historic results there. 70 meters at 1.23, 154 meters at 0.7, 178 meters at 0.72, with considerable molybdenum credit in the hole as well. 284 ppm moly over that 178 meter intersection. So this gives us a bit of confidence in what we're seeing in the core. Although we don't have the assays back yet, obviously we're seeing quite a bit of visible chalcopyrite mineralization, and we are also seeing the molybdenum in the core. So we're certainly seeing similar style mineralization to what those historic holes did intersect. Mineralization is at least 500 meters deep, still open at depth, and appears to have a slight southerly plunge to the mineralization. So we believe that once we get our head around the geometry of the top part of the system, we certainly have potential to chase that mineralization down as well, particularly at depth and to the south. We also have an opportunity, I think, nearby to probably discover some additional breccia pipes near surface. So yeah, as I mentioned, the drill program started. If we can go to the next slide, please. The first hole of the program, as I mentioned, intersected some pretty nice looking chalcopyrite from about 50 meters to 250 meters. That hole had a final depth of 450 meters. So we did see the mineralization extend past the 250 meters. That looks like, we're probably going to have some reasonable numbers down to about 350 meters in that first hole. So it's an 8-hole program plan for a total of 4,000 meters. We're expecting the assay results in early May. We're on the second hole now. So the second hole is approximately 150 meters deep at the moment, and we have already started to see some reasonable visible sulfides in that hole as well. So the program initially is basically to identify and confirm the copper mineralization in the near surface breccia pipes, but also start to get a feel for where we can extend mineralization either along strike or at depth. Next slide, please. Just on Las Patacas, so as I mentioned, a very major sort of historic copper mining area, not very far south of the large Candelaria deposit, which is one of the larger IOCG deposits in Chile, iron oxide copper gold. We believe Patacas has got a very similar geological setting, similar structural controls, and obviously, as we've mentioned in some of our announcements, quite a significant amount of near surface copper mineralization. If we can go to the next slide. And just an overview of our drilling program that to date, we've focused on an area there called Peta 1, where we've delineated mineralization over about 1 kilometre strike length within a much bigger sort of 6 kilometre long copper trend. So a lot of mineralization. It's a significant size to this thing, and you can see some of the grades there are quite reasonable. 14 meters at 0.7, 6 meters at 0.58 in one of the holes, and similar numbers in another hole. So that project has got a lot of size to it, and basically at the moment we're trying to home in on where the better grade material is, and there's a lot of areas that have not been drilled yet. We can go to the next one. Just some of the potential at Patacas. Obviously, the 6 kilometre long strike is pretty exciting, but there is also some adjacent IOCG targets that we've identified from a ground mag survey that we did a couple of months ago. We are at this moment in time updating our geological maps and trying to position the drilling to test that IOCG target. So that's something that will happen probably after we finish at Lana Carina, so probably a couple of months away yet, but certainly a pretty exciting IOCG anomaly in that ground mag, and a couple of other targets at the AWST and Far East that we certainly will be following up as well. We can go to the next slide. So just on Quelon, unfortunately, we haven't had because we've got stuck into Lana Carina so quickly, we haven't been able to sort of get down on the ground at Quelon as much as we'd like to, but we certainly have some, pretty exciting geology down there, mineralisation striking over 10 kilometres, a significant amount of historic sort of smaller scale mining having occurred on the property, and some of our recent geophysics has certainly highlighted quite a number of targets that have never been mined and never been drill tested. So in the coming months, we hope to also get down to Quelon with the drill rig. So I suppose capping off, we're expecting quite a bit of news flow out of Lana Carina. That'll be updates on the drilling progress, what we're seeing in the core. Obviously, we've sent the first batch of samples away for analysis, probably looking at about a 3 or 4 week turnaround on those results. So late April, early May for the drilling results from Lana Carina, and then more drilling both at Patarkas and Quelon later in the year. That's about all for Culpeo tonight.
Max, thank you so much for the great presentation. We did have quite a few questions coming through on the drilling and the number of holes that have been drilled, but you did just answer that. So I've got one question for you though. So what excites you most about the projects?
Look, I think, Lana Carina is a de-risked. It's already had that historic drilling. We know the results are there. We've seen the old core. We really do believe that we're seeing the same styles of mineralization in the drilling that we're doing. So we're pretty confident we're going to get similar numbers to that historic stuff. Being near surface, it looks like it's going to amend itself reasonably well to open cut mining if we do get that far down the track. And given the geometry, it won't take us too long after drilling this program to start looking at sort of trying to estimate a resource around that information. So it's being that sort of project, I think that's what's very exciting about it.
Wonderful. Well, it looks like you've got a great program of work, so a lot of news flow coming up. But thank you for joining us, and look forward to having you on next time.
Thank you very much, Jane.
So next we have a presentation from Ausgold with the ticker code AUC. To tell us more about their Katanning gold project in WA, I will now hand you over to Managing Director, Dr. Matthew Greentree. Good afternoon, Matt.
Thank you, Jane.
Let me bring up your presentation for you.
Yeah. All right, thanks. Ausgold's West Australian focused gold explorer, and you see this picture here is the historic mine at Katanning. And what I'll take you through is what we've done over the past few years to really show the potential scale of this project. And we're rapidly advancing through PFS studies, and in mid-year we'll have a maiden ore reserve. So Jane, can you flip across to the next 2 slides? Thanks. So just as some background, where we're located, we're 3.5 hours south of Perth, about midway between Perth and Albany. What we've got is a very large gold resource at 1.84 million ounces, and that's set to get larger as we've already completed over 60,000 metres of new drilling, with 30,000 metres of RC drilling focused on the resource areas. During the previous year, we added 635,000 ounces. So we've really been hitting this hard over the last 18 months or so, and we're continuing to grow this with every resource. We've already shown that the Katanning Gold Project's a standalone operation. With the current resource, we could produce at least 100,000 ounces, and we're set to expand that with the resource upgrade and the feasibility studies that are underway. Just recently, we announced the metallurgy for the PFS. The first round showed really excellent recoveries with a high gravity component. So I'll take you through those in the coming slides. And we've done this at a fairly modest cost. Our discovery cost is about $10 an ounce to date. So we're really kicking goals there. We're still relatively cheap on the ASX, and I think as awareness in the market grows, that market valuation will increase. We've got a lot of catalysts coming up. As I mentioned, we have a maiden ore reserve coming through in June this year. But before that, we've got the over 15,000 metres of drilling to report to the market. We've got a resource upgrade later this month, and a lot of other exploration results on our regional ground holding. So Jane, could you move to the next slide? Just in terms of the corporate structure, we just recently completed a large capital raise of $16.6 million. It's not reflecting the cash at hand here, as we're ratifying that placement later this month. Market capitalisation as of today is about $130 million. And I think that's still relatively cheap compared to the asset base we have. It's a well-experienced board and management, and I think you can see since that last capital raise, we've really been performing very well in terms of share price. We introduced some significant shareholders, including Jupiter Fund out of the UK, which is a multi-billion-dollar fund. We've also had Dundee Goodman as a major shareholder, sitting at 13.3%. So we're really building up that register and really to grow the company into a producer. So the next slide, please. This goes over a little bit where we are. You can see the southwest Yilgarn is the focus of the Katanning Gold Project. Our tenements are shown in yellow. There's been a lot of activity in our neck of the woods since the discovery of Julimar up in the northern portion of that southwest Yilgarn. Chalice is also active to the west of us there with their Venturex joint venture. And between us, Anglo American have got over 10,000 square kilometres pegged between Julimar and Katanning. So I wouldn't surprise you to say that our focus is on the gold, but we're also keeping our eyes open on the potential for PGE mineralisation. And the primary focus of that PGE work is out at our Wood Annealing project, which is a laid mafic intrusive complex. Going back to the main show, which is the Katanning Gold Project, you can see we've delivered some very high-grade results throughout the last 12 months, and we continue to do so with our RC drill program. The resource upgrade will be coming in April. It's well on track. We've been getting really good turnarounds on our assays, and I think we'll continue to see that with the use of photon rather than fire assay on the project. The Katanning Gold Project is fairly unique in the sense that we're quite close to town. The township of Katanning is home to about 5,000 people. It's a farming community. It's got a lot of community support for the development of this project. But what it does give us is access to grid power, the sealed roads. There's a town nearby with all the amenities of those towns. And I think that alongside having granted mining licenses really, I guess, put this in the top tier of developers coming online. Next slide, please. In terms of the technical side, I think one of the first things we've put out on the upcoming studies is the metallurgy. What we saw was really exceptional gold recoveries. Up to 69% comes out in gravity. So that's the cheapest gold you'll recover from any gold processing plant. And with further recoveries, up to 96% achieved with a very standard CIL, cyanide process, relatively low reagent consumption. We're working more on the metallurgy as we speak. We've got some more composites coming through on that to really give us a very good handle on what the process flow sheet will be for the Katanning Gold Project. Next slide, please. So we're very busy at the moment, as you might have been able to gather from what I've been saying. We've just completed that large 30,000 metre drill campaign at Katanning. We've got the pre-feasibility studies well advanced at the moment. Resource upgrade April, maiden ore reserve June this year. But we're not stopping there. We've got a large regional campaign of exploration underway. We've got follow-up RC and diamond drilling. And part of that will be co-funded by the state government under the Exploration Incentive Scheme. And we're going to follow up on a number of targets we generated with a 25,000 metre air core program that was completed over the summer months. Following on from the resource upgrade, we've got a number of other targets that sit outside the main focus of our drilling this year, and we'll continue to grow that resource because we have a strong belief in the multi-million ounce potential of the Katanning resource. Alongside that, we've got a two-pronged approach, really focusing on resource growth and also development through the studies process. So we'll be working on our approvals, environmental studies, that community consultation, that the ESG component is very important to any project that's coming online in this environment. As alongside the technical, the engineering, the metallurgy, and the rest, as we move into a definitive study, which is due to start in Q4 this year. Next slide, please. So just quickly going through the project, I'll take you through what we look like in the remaining minutes here. What we've done, we've broken the project into three main groupings, northern, central, and southern. The main work that we've completed today, and the bulk of the resource sits in what we call the central zone, and that's centered around that historic mine that you saw on the front page. We see a lot of potential for growth, particularly in the southern zone, but also in that northern zone. The southern zone, I guess, is the second cab off the rank. At the moment, only 147,000 of the 1.84 million ounces is located there, but we've seen some excellent results in recent drilling. Next slide, please. So just looking at that same map view again, but looking also in long section, that top long section is a north-south slice through the project. And you can see the resource block model there. That central zone is where the bulk of the resources sit. We understand that they remain open, down plunge and along strike, both to the south and to the north. And another area there, you can see the rifle range remains open. It's the link between the two gaps in the resource area. So there's a lot of work going in there over the next few months as part of our drilling campaign beyond the current resource upgrade. Next slide, please. We've got a very, very good understanding of the geology, particularly in that central zone. It's a folded ore body. Where the lodes fold, we see an increase in grade, and we see those very spectacular high-grade intercepts that this project is famous for. The other portion of that is that those high-grade shoots respond very well to downhole EM. So we've been using downhole EM as a geophysical technique to target these high-grade shoots, and that really underpins our low discovery cost for the recent resource upgrades. Next slide, please. Again, looking at the same long section of the Jinkers and Jinkers South lodes, these are two main components of the central zone that really make up the bulk of the Katanning Gold Project. This is about 1.2 of the 1.84 million ounces. So it's a very important component. You can see those very spectacular grades in those high-grade shoots that we use with the downhole EM. There's a number of areas here that are still open, including an underground component, which is part of the future work that we're undertaking. Next slide, please. So just looking at that underground potential, at the moment, we just report a very small portion of the resource, but the grade on the underground is quite high, 3.1 grams per tonne. It's only, at the moment, only represents 54,000 ounces, but we know that that's not closed off, and there's a number of areas where we can expand that down plunge and along strike. The current resource, apart from this small portion, is all open cardboard material. Next slide. So what I'm going to do now is take you to the south, what we call that southern zone. It starts at the rifle range. That's a woodland area. Historically, it's been, I guess, less of a target of exploration because it's taken a bit more logistics rather than working in open wheat fields. It's a treed area. We've got permitting to work in there. The drilling will start in early May with a diamond program. But we've already commenced an RC program on that area that's shown in the yellow there between those two resource areas. Let's keep next slide, please, Jane. So just moving southward here, we're looking at the southern zone. Those red outlines are the 0.1 gram per tonne gold in air core drilling. And you can see over an 8 kilometre strike length around that Dingo resource area, north and south. So it's a very large area that we're talking about. And that's why we have such confidence in potential for a multi-million ounce project at Katanning. You can see some of the recent results we've obtained over the last 6 months or so. And that's primarily that southern extension of the Dingo resource, which will form part of the resource upgrade in later this month. So we've extended that resource over 900 meters in strike length. Next slide, please. So just wrapping up now, I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, we've got a large regional ground holding, and we've got a strong belief in the region as well. It's very underexplored as part of the Yilgarn Craton. I think the exploration attention's really only come on since the discovery of Julimar. So we, as a first mover in this region, were able to put our foot on some of the major prospects in that area. Some of those include the Nanakup Ridge and Bullet Pool prospects were discovered by Dominion back in the late 90s. And they augment our Katanning Gold project, and we're working those up towards a resource area. But you can see that there's some great grades in that, and we're looking to put those together alongside our Katanning Gold project as a much larger project. Next slide, please. And just stepping out again to that broader scale, what you see there is a gravity image with our tenure around the Katanning Gold project. We've got a very good position around a major crustal structure. That's that same crustal structure that runs up past Julimar on the eastern side of that deposit. We've been very fortunate to obtain that ground position, and we've been doing a lot of exploration over the last 6 months on that, hitting some, I think, some very high priority and very exciting targets. We'll start seeing results for those coming out over the next several weeks and months, and I think there should be a lot of market excitement in that. We're not just targeting gold, we're also targeting the PGEs in that area. So next slide, please. So I think it's an exciting project and company. We've just obtained a critical mass for our resource, and really we've already got enough material for a standalone gold operation. What we see though is a much, much larger potential here with the exceptional strike length of over 17 kilometers of mineralization. There is absolute potential for a multi-million ounce project here, and we're building on that with our recent capital raise, and we're well funded to deliver a large drill campaign over the coming months. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Matt. Great presentation. We've actually had a Twitter attendee send through a question here. So we have a circa 2 million ounce resource with an upgrade coming. While I appreciate you can't actually get into too much detail, but how big do you think this can actually get?
Look, obviously we're staging our resource upgrades as the results come through. We added 640,000 ounces last year. We're better funded now. And we're really hitting it quite hard over the next 12 to 18 months with the drilling, particularly in that southern zone. So I think we're easily in that 2 million ounce range. Going forward, we're hoping to target 3 to 5 is the scale that I want to see.
Wonderful. We will look forward to further updates, and thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Jane.
So next up, we are joined by Mark Maloney, the Executive Director of Tulla Resources with the ticker code TUL. To tell us more about the Norseman Gold Project in WA, I will hand you over to Mark. Good afternoon, Mark.
Hey, Jane, how are you?
Well, thank you. I'll let you jump into your presentation.
Right. Have you got the presentation?
Oh, yep. Okay, I can share it for you.
Or can I share it? Is that easier?
Yeah, yep, you can share it if you'd like.
Okay, let's do that. Can you see that?
We can. You might want to make that just full screen, perhaps.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Thanks everyone for your time. Jane, let's okay, so we're Tulla Resources. The focus of our business at the moment is the Norseman project in Western Australia, just near Kalgoorlie. We've been actively working on our gold project there for a number of years now, more recently since May 2019 with our operating joint venture partner, Pantoro. So the main focus over the last couple of years has been to strategically set up the asset for success by investing a lot of money in the ground and making sure that it has the reserves and life of mine ahead of it. So we believe that we've delivered on that. We had a phase 1 DFS out a couple of years ago, which people would remember, and we kicked off with around 600,000 ounces in reserves and a 6-7 year mine life. Or in the period since then, and including an announcement this week, we've now taken those reserves up to just over 900,000, and we will be extending the life of mine on the back of that. So we believe that with all the money that's been put in the ground, that the asset for the first time in a long while has been set up for real success. Alongside of that, whilst Norseman, one of the major attractions of the project was that it had a huge amount of existing infrastructure in place. We did make the decision that we wanted to build a new plant, and we're about, I'd say, roughly 75% of the way through that, with first gold scheduled in August. Beauty of that construction is that we now have all materials on ground, so not any real cost exposure from here or logistics hold up exposure from here. And GR Engineering are doing that construction, doing a great job, and we believe it will be relatively smooth sailing through to first gold in August, which we're obviously excited about. Alongside that, we've essentially awarded the mining contracts, both underground and open pit. Underground to West Oz Mining, open pit to Hamptons, both we believe exceptional operators, and at a price that we think is very competitive in the current environment, and not too dissimilar to what we had in the original DFS. So those guys are mobilizing as we speak, and we expect to commence mining next month. Outside of the gold, we've got some pretty exciting projects emerging in lithium, nickel, and iron ore. Lots of activity happening there, which we believe will be adding value, and we can talk about that as we get into the presentation. Just a bit of an overview from us from a corporate point of view. We do have a relatively strong balance sheet, cash at bank, no debt, and we also own just over 6% of our joint venture partner Pantoro, which has a value of roughly $30 million sitting on our balance sheet as well. We've worked hard over the last 12 months since we IPO'd to stabilize our share register. We believe we have a pretty solid shareholder base now that we're proud of. A couple of significant overseas resource funds sitting on our share register, some strong local domestic institutions, a fair presence from mining family office money, and an emerging strong retail shareholder base as well. Just focusing on some key highlights. We've assembled a very experienced board and management team. We have some reasonably big names in global mining on the board, ex-heads of BHP's base metals division, ex-head of Xstrata's business development division. Lots of skill in overseeing joint ventures, bringing assets into production, and good access to global deal flow, which will be important to us as we grow this business. We believe we have a well-defined growth strategy. We have been very focused on making sure the gold is set up for success and continuing to build out the life of mine. And we're also very focused on exploiting those other mineral opportunities there at Norseman. One thing people also like about Norseman is it has a huge amount of exploration upside, and we'll touch on that briefly. And we've talked about the balance sheet, which is in very strong shape. So this is an overview of the Norseman land holding or project. You can see a fairly extensive area with multiple opportunities, about 70 kilometres of strike there. We've chosen to kick off with some key mining centres, mainly kicking off around that area to the bottom of the screen, Scotia, which adjoins Green Lantern, and also the OK area, which is closer to the main field. But as I said, lots of quality infrastructure already in place, and huge land endowment with lots of exploration upside. We this week announced a major upgrade for the Scotia area. We've been doing a lot of work in the deeps there, and we announced another 184,000 ounces, which is significant. And the thing to know is that there is still a lot that remains open there. So this Scotia will become a mine camp in its own right, and it will adjoin an area there called Green Lantern, which will be part of the startup plan as well. And we believe developing into one super pit, which we're very excited about. We also announced some minor upgrades in the main fields area. The focus of our drilling recently has been in that Scotia and Green Lantern area, but we will be moving into the main fields area to build that out further as we come off Scotia and Green Lantern. And the thing to note about the main field is it has yielded about 50% of the ounces that have come out of Norseman through its history. But based on the work we've done and the data we've seen, we believe there's a lot more to come from that area. So moving into lithium, which we're very excited about, it's worth pointing out that Liontown's Anna deposit, which I believe analysts value anywhere from $400 to $500 million, we believe that runs right across the border into our Baldania deposit. So that has us quite excited. We did some chip sampling, which turned up some pretty interesting results. And over the years, we had lots of interest in that lithium and a lot of approaches. And we decided with our joint venture partner Pantoro to run a process towards the end of last year to find the right partner to move forward with. For us, Mineral Resources stood out as the best partner to move forward with. Firstly, given their expertise in the lithium space in Western Australia, it's hard to find a better partner with that expertise. Secondly, the commercials were a standout for us, giving us free carry all the way through to first production. And then lastly, working on a relatively tight time frame of getting there within 3 years. So I believe the Mineral Resources guys are as equally excited as us. They have been drilling and almost complete their first program. And we're hoping to see some good results from that at the end of April, early May. But we believe there's a lot of upside to come out of the lithium project. In regards to the iron ore, we've been excited about that for a long time as well, based on the data that we had seen and some initial work. Essentially, there's about 20 kilometers of strike there. Interesting widths, anywhere from 15 up to 250 meters. And Davis tube testing has shown magnetite at good commercial grades. The other thing that is of benefit to us is you've got the rail that runs right through the site, and you've got the deep water port at Esperance already shipping iron ore. So we believe from an iron ore perspective, it's well set up for success. We have signed a offtake and funding arrangement with a group called Koch Metals, who have some deep experience in the iron ore space. At the moment, that deal is non-binding. It's predicated on them getting away their LSE listing in June this year. They have done some pre-IPO funding, which has been successful, and the prospects for their listing in June are looking quite good as well. So we're excited about pushing forward with that project and believe that it will add a lot of value to shareholders too. Lastly, nickel is a strong area of interest for us. The area has always been known for nickel. There's lots of successful nickel neighbours around us. There is a huge amount of data on the nickel at Norseman. Western Mining and Nickel Australia spent a lot of money over the years drilling out for nickel. We've had our technical people pulling together that data over the last 6 months, and we have reason to believe that there are nickel sulfide deposits there of commercial significance that we believe we can exploit going forward. The other benefit is you've obviously got the Kambalda concentrator and the Kalgoorlie smelter, both by sealed highways, pretty close. So that's of benefit as well. The next steps for us here are to continue to round out the technical work we're doing on validating the data, and to then think about with our joint venture partner Pantoro how we commercialize that opportunity going forward. But that is a priority for us. So bringing it all together in our strategy, the focus is very much still number one on the gold, getting that cash generating from August this year, making sure we continue to extend the life of mine and grow out the production profile, which we believe we can easily do. I should mention that the plant we're building is 1 million tonnes per annum, but it is relatively easily expandable to 1.5 million tonnes per annum for minimal cost. So focus very much on making that gold a success, and Pantoro as the operating partners are 100% focused on that. Outside of that, with the lithium, iron ore and nickel, they are real opportunities that are now being commercialized. So very much a priority to make sure that the partners that have been brought in there are working with us to make that happen. We believe that should keep us pretty well occupied for the next 12 to 18 months. And then beyond that, we will start to look for opportunities outside of the Norseman area, to round out our strategy as a diversified mining investment house. The last thing I'd point out is our valuation. You can see there versus our peers in the developer universe that we're trading very cheap or exceptionally cheap. Soon we're to move into the producer universe. None of this takes into account the lithium, iron ore, or nickel upside. The catalysts from here I see are more reserve upgrades on the gold side. We've indicated to the market that that will be the case in the near future. Commencement of production on the gold side, eventual upgrade of the mill, expansion of production. On the lithium side, we're hoping we'll have some good drill results out end of April, early May. On the iron ore side, Kosh getting their LSE listing away and that arrangement kicking off. And then on the nickel, information on the data and what's there, and a commercialization arrangement for that moving forward as well. So that's it, Jane. Back to you.
Thank you for that, Mark. I'll just get you to stop sharing your screen if you can there. But in the meantime, you did actually answer most of the questions that had come through from investors. One that did come through that hasn't been answered is just with the drilling program over the lithium assets. We've obviously got those results coming out April, May. What's the next stages for that lithium project?
Well, I think, yeah, we'll see the results, and then we're assuming they will obviously be good, and then we'll do some more work to build that out and progress that, hopefully to a decision of building out the project and moving into production within 3 years.
Well, and just finally, what are you most excited about?
I think there's quite a lot to be excited about at Norseman, but I think near term is just getting back into first production of gold. I think that's going to be a huge kind of point for the business. Getting that cash flowing and getting the gold pouring again at Norseman will be will be very exciting.
Wonderful. I look forward to getting over there for the mine restart.
Great.
Well, thank you for that, Mark. We look forward to further updates.
Thanks, Jane. Bye.
And thank you all for joining us today. Recordings of today's presentations will be available online in the coming days on both brokerbriefing.com and YouTube. We look forward to hosting you again.